Hey everybody. I'm just waiting a second because I was having trouble getting on at 2 p.m. It was saying something went wrong with the broadcast. So I'll just wait a moment to see if it's working now. As soon as, looks like somebody's online now. Great. Maybe you could just say that you hear me so that I can get started. Somebody? Because it would be a shame. Oh, thank you, Sarah Swan, for saying you can hear me. It's hard for me to read this because I'm doing it myself this week. Hi, Kim, because Kenny's not here. Hello, Colleen. Okay. It goes so fast, the feed. Thank you, Louise. Okay. Thank you, Connie. I'll be going like this the whole time if I keep reading this. So great. I'm so glad you can hear me. So happy, healthy New Year, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of Weight Loss Wednesday, the very first broadcast of the new year. I'm Chef AJ. If you're unfamiliar with my work, I'm the creator of an online program and an in-person one if you live in Los Angeles called the Ultimate Weight Loss Program. Thank you, Maureen, for saying I look beautiful. I can actually see today for some reason. I'm the author of a book called Unprocessed and the host of a television show called Healthy Living with Chef AJ. And I do these Facebook Live broadcasts at 2 p.m. Pacific time every Wednesday. And I do sincerely apologize for missing last Wednesday. I was working at the True North Health Center in Santa Rosa, California for the annual holiday extravaganza. And actually, I want to talk about that just for a moment because the first question is from Ronald, who says, what is this True North Health Center that you're always referring to? And I could not broadcast there. I could broadcast because I broadcasted about 7 of the lectures, but at 2 p.m. Wednesday, there was another lecture, so I couldn't do my own Weight Loss Wednesday. So Ronald, what the True North Health Center is a clinic in Santa Rosa, California, that is a medically supervised therapeutic water-only fasting center. And it was founded over 30 years ago by Dr. Alan Goldhammer, who is my hero and mentor, along with Dr. John McDougall and Dr. Doug Lau. Not that they founded it, they're also my heroes and mentors, with his wife, Dr. Jennifer Morano. And originally it was in Pengrove, and now it's in Santa Rosa, actually about a half a mile away from where Dr. McDougall runs his wonderful live-in McDougall 10-day program at the Flamingo Hotel. And they have had over 30,000 patients there now in the last 30-some years that they've helped get well from myriad diseases, lifestyle diseases primarily, things like high blood pressure, hypertension, obesity, type 2 diabetes, even they've helped some people with type 1, certain cancers, autoimmune disease, and they do that through water-only fasting. Now, excuse me, figures, I don't have... This is live, baby, and Kenny's not here today. So anyway, I have been there 10 times now, 9 times as a guest chef and lecturer, and 1 time as a patient 6 years ago in 2011, but I have never fasted. So I don't want you to be scared thinking, well, this place isn't for me because I'm afraid to fast. I went there with the intention of doing a water fast, but at the time I was on psychiatric medication. That's actually why I went there, was to get off my medication, and I was not eligible to do a water fast. So I was only there for 8 days, and I did a 5-day juice fast, and I still got a tremendous amount of benefit from them. Now, the last 9 times I was there, I was what they call an unrestricted feeder, where I got to eat all the delicious food I wanted, as much as I wanted, as often as I want, and still lose weight, as everyone there has done before me. And a lot of people do that as well. So if you're interested in finding out more about the True North Health Center, simply go to their website, which is www.healthpromoting.com. And if you fill out the form, the health intake form, God, I'm sorry, guys. If I get up, who are you going to watch? I could put Bailey in my chair. I ate a carrot right before the podcast. Not a good idea. Must have gone down the wrong way. What are you saying there? I hate for you guys to look up my nose. Dr. Goldhammer will give you a free 20-minute consultation to see if True North is actually right for you. And if you want to go there, not necessarily to get well from a disease, but just to go for vacation, people do that for rest. Also, I'm there the last 2 weeks of the year for a special feeding program where we do cooking demos, sometimes up to 2 a days, and fun and games and all kinds of things. And you can see many of them on my Facebook page that you're on right now. For example, the Iron Chef that I did with Chef Bravo. So that's where what True North is. I was fat for over 52 years of my life until going to True North and learning the kind of stuff that I hope to teach to you guys when I do these broadcasts, or if you join the Ultimate Weight Loss Program. Alrighty then. So the first question comes from Cecilia. And she says, I love your broadcasts. Thank you. I watch them every week. Thank you again. And I'm interested in considering the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, but I have failed so many times on diets that I'm afraid to try. So I hear that a lot, Cecilia, and I'm going to address it in a couple different ways. So when you say you failed, I'd like a little bit more information. So if you're watching now, type it in and I'll see if I can see your name. How do you know you failed? Now, when you say you failed, does that mean you failed to meet your goals? And I assume that if you went on a diet, your goal was weight loss. So did you fail because the diet didn't work and you didn't meet your weight loss goals, or because the diet wasn't sustainable and you could not maintain your weight loss? Now, you haven't failed on the Ultimate Weight Loss Program because you haven't tried it yet. So I would still encourage you to try it and see what your results are, because it's not just a diet, it's a comprehensive program. It's a lifestyle program. We give you lots and lots of not only information that's going to help you succeed, but lots of support as well. But here's the thing, diets don't work. Well, actually they do, they all work. But the reality is that 98% of the people that go on diets, usually through a great deal of pain and suffering and restriction, gain all of the weight back that they lost plus more weight within 2 years. It shows that about 66% of the people regain the weight within 1 year and another 22% within the second year. So the thing is all diets work, but you have to follow them, and you have to be willing to follow them pretty much for the rest of your life. It's sort of like if you have high blood pressure or diabetes and you don't reverse your disease with lifestyle, you will have to take these medications for the rest of your life, because these diseases are incurable, just like food addiction and obesity are incurable diseases. Now, they can be managed, but they can't be cured. And so what happens is people go on these diets and they work, they lose the weight, but then what happens is they drop the diet to go back to things that aren't in their current program, their old lifestyle, their old behaviors, their old foods, and then they gain the weight back. So my advice to you is whatever diet style you end up adopting, make sure you like it and make sure it's sustainable for you, because otherwise you will fail. I don't like that word fail, but these are your words, not mine. I would much rather have you word it, I have not yet succeeded, because, you know, there's an old saying that Thomas Edison failed at inventing electricity thousands of times. And every time you do something, instead of thinking that you're a failure, because that's the problem with the word fail, is that you feel if you fail, then you're a failure, and that makes you feel bad about yourself. But instead of thinking that you failed, why don't you think about that, well, you have not yet succeeded in solving this problem, but it's not a failure because now you've learned something else that didn't work for you. Now, a lot of you see me now as a person that is slender, that have been slender for almost 5 years now. But what you aren't seeing is the person that was in tremendous pain and suffering for the first 52 years of my life. You're probably sick of me hearing that, saying this, but I became fat at the age of 5, and this was in 1960 when there were not that many fat kids. Now 1 out of every 3 children under the age of 18 is obese, but in 1960 there was only 1 fat kid per class, and that kid was me. And by the age of 11, I was 160 pounds, and I was not 5'6" yet. I could look it up in my school records, but I know I wasn't even 5 feet tall. So I was obese at the age of 11, and I had to go through all the terrible things that one goes through in early childhood development from being that. And I pretty much was overweight or obese for the first 52 years of my life. If you want the whole story, you'll have to go to YouTube or Dr. McDougall's website and listen to or watch From Fat Vegan to Skinny Bitch. But the only reason I'm successful now is because of all the failures. Your failures make you who you are. I mean, who in life has never failed? Every successful person has failed multiple times, and probably you could argue that the more successful the person is, the more times they fail. So, you know, try it. If it doesn't work for you, you have another tool in your tool belt of something you know that doesn't work for you. But here's the thing. The Ultimate Weight Loss Program, the diet, at least part of it, is the exact same diet that Dr. McDougall recommends in his book, McDougall Program for Maximum Weight Loss, and that Dr. Goldhammer has been serving and teaching to patients for over 30 years, over 30,000 patients. So the diet part of the program never doesn't work. What doesn't always work is a person's ability to sustain it. And so many factors go into that, because that's the hard part. Losing weight is easy. Everybody can do it, pretty much. Everybody has done it. It's the maintaining that is the difficult part, and that's why in our program we give you that ongoing support. We have people now in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program who have lost over 200 pounds and have kept it off. And part of the reason for their success is that they're in this tribe of very supportive, loving people that are continuing to support them and supporting new people as they come along. But one of the things I want to share with you, because you used the word fail, which I don't like that word at all. There's certain words I hate. I don't even like the word resolution. People said, have you made any New Year's resolutions? No, I haven't, because 80% of people that make resolutions don't follow them within at least 2 weeks of making them. There's a big difference between a resolution and a goal. I do make goals and I do make commitments, but I don't make resolutions. I learned something very important at True North. I learned lots of stuff, but this time, because it was said by a doctor. Now, I always instinctively knew that this was accurate with my clients, because most of the people I work with privately are, like myself, food addicts in various stages of recovery. And one of the things I hear a lot is, well, I can't do your program because it's too restrictive, and I'm going to fail. So if it's too restrictive, then I'm going to binge, or I'm going to eat these things because I can't do this. And there was a part of me that always felt and believed, because of the particular individuals, knowing them and knowing their history, was that it was kind of a cop-out and an excuse saying that, because the reality is even before they came to my program, as diligent as they have to be during the program to get the results, they were still failing. They were still binging. So it wasn't my program that was making them want these foods. It was their addictive tendencies and the addictive nature of these foods that were making them keep eating these foods. And Dr. Anthony Lim gave a wonderful lecture on Monday on behavioral change. Now, if you're not familiar with Dr. Lim, I suggest you Google him on YouTube, because the presentation he gave at the last McDougall Advanced Study Weekend is there. Dr. Lim is the medical director of the McDougall Live-In program. He's also a Kaiser physician, and he's also a staff physician at True North. And he brought up this very subject of failing. And what he said is that many people use failing as an excuse to continue failing and as an excuse to go back to the behavior. So that's something to consider. I have found that to be true in my clients. If you're the exception, great. So I welcome you to consider the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, or any program that you can do. You know, the Ultimate Weight Loss Program is a rigorous program. It's not for people that are 5 pounds overweight that need to lose those 5 vanity pounds. That said, it works beautifully for that, because living in LA, I do get that type of clientele, people that are models and actresses that need to take 5 or 10 pounds off, even though they're already thinner than I am, because the camera adds 10 pounds and certain angles and certain wardrobe demands. The thing is, if you can do a less restrictive program, please do it. Please do it. I'm busy enough. I don't need more people. I need you to be well and to be happy and to do something that works for you and that is sustainable, whatever that is. And if that means weighing and measuring your food, do it. I am not against anything that works for you. The thing is many people have fallen through the cracks in some of these other programs that are either more liberal in terms of what they allow, specifically refined foods like sugars and flours, or not able to sustain weighing and measuring their food. So if you can find a less restrictive program that works for you, do it. The regular McDougall program is a wonderful program. It's a great point of entry for people looking to follow a plant-based diet, and it works for many, maybe if not most people. But there's a group of us who have this sensitivity to the refined carbohydrates, like the sugars and flours and alcohol, and to salt, that for that, the more liberal programs don't work. And that's why we have to do the more rigorous program of either Ultimate Weight Loss, which again is the same diet as the McDougall Program for Maximum Weight Loss, and the health promoting diet taught at True North Health. So I hope I answered your question, Cecilia. If you need more follow-up, just type it in, or you can type it in later. I do go through this feed afterwards. It's just hard for me to do it during the broadcast when I don't have Kenny here. but every now and then I look that. You're good at measuring would drive me nuts. Speaking of nuts, the next question actually is about nuts, Jennifer. Okay, so where did the question go? Okay, here we go. All right. So, Javier, I love that name, by the way. One of my first chef jobs was with someone named Javier. He said that he saw a snippet of my presentation on the VegSource website of the lecture that I gave at the last Healthy Lifestyle Expo, which I was very privileged to do. Thank you, Jeff Nelson, for having me. And he wanted to know where he could get more information on the subject of calorie density. So if you look at the previous 13 broadcasts, I don't have an academic memory like Dr. McDougall, who can tell you that in the May 2004 newsletter he wrote that article, but I know that in many of these previous broadcasts I show you calorie density with different jars and things like that. So I'm not going to do that again with this one, but I am going to show you one example that I think is going to blow your mind, because it literally just happened at True North. And if you want to see the whole lecture, I don't have it online right now. That is what you get when you join the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, and it's the foundation of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program is calorie density. So at True North, they serve the diet style that I recommend along with my partner, John Pierre, which is a whole food plant-based diet that is free of sugar, oil, flour, salt, and gluten. And of course, we don't use drugs like caffeine or alcohol or chocolate. Nuts and seeds and high-fat plant foods like avocado are allowed up to an ounce a day if appropriate. And by that, we mean if appropriate for you. There are people that have certain allergies or certain GI disturbances that can't have the nuts and seeds, and there's certain people like myself for whom they are what we call trigger foods, that they're not addictive in the same way that sugars and flours are, but they cause us to have cravings and they perpetuate overeating. And for people that are able to consume the nuts and seeds, the recommendation is 1 ounce a day. And again, this is what 1 ounce of nuts looks like. I can't really move the camera. I hope you can see this. There. That's an ounce of nuts. It's a small palmful. So right here is 200 calories of walnuts, and this is 20 grams of fat. Now, I ate exactly this amount, weighed and measured, for 1 year and could not lose an ounce. I didn't gain any weight, but even when I cut it down to the recommended amount, I could not lose an ounce. And as I talk to experts and interview them on my weekly, I have a new broadcast that I do weekly. It's like the teleclass Healthy Living, but I'm doing it in the video format. So make sure that you're on my mailing list at eatunprocessed.com so you can see these interviews. What we're learning is people vary greatly in the ability to eat fat and not be fat. Now, there's people that can eat a preponderance of their calories from fat, people also that are very athletic. Males generally can eat more fat calories and not be fat. But there are some people, and this has to do with something that is beyond the scope of my understanding right now. I believe it's called the APOE5 gene, but there's a genetic variant as to how much fat a person can eat and be slim or not be fat. And so if you can eat nuts and seeds and avocado and other high-fat foods, even like oil or animal products, and not be overweight, then good for you. You're not me. You're not from my short fat family genetically. You're more from my husband's type of family, but there's many of us that can't eat any fat and not be fat. And so you have to realize that as long as you're eating enough calories, you're getting enough fat in your diet. And Dr. McDougall talks about this extensively in all his books about how the fat you eat is the fat you wear. So even when you eat things like greens, there is fat in greens, and the good kind, the kind you want, the omega-3 fatty acids. There's even trace amounts of fat in fruit. And if you eat something like whole grains like oats, almost 20% of those calories come from fat. So it's pretty much impossible to be fatty deficient unless you're calorie deficient. And again, if you're worried, you can have a tablespoon of ground flax seeds or chia seeds a day, like Dr. Esselstyn recommends for his heart patients. I know that I personally, the scale would not budge for 1 year until I cut out all the added fat, which is what we recommend you do in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, just for the first 21 and 30 days, and see if that will jumpstart your weight loss. It's running an experiment, as Dr. Lyle says. You can always add more fat back in later, but it'd be a worthy experiment to try if you're one of these people that can't seem to burn fat while you're still consuming fat. Because if you have fat on your body, you are not going to become fatty acid deficient in 21 or 30 days. So at True North, the nuts and seeds are on a little table that's away from the main two tables, which have the 24-hour salad bar and fruit and the cooked starches like the rice, the beans, the squashes, the potatoes or sweet potatoes, and the steamed vegetables, the hot bars here, the cold bars here. It's shaped like an L. There's this little tiny table in the background with just a little bit of flax seeds and a little bit of, pumpkin seeds and some walnuts if people want to sprinkle them on their salad. And the amount they put out, there was, I believe, 70 people at the extravaganza. The amount they put out is just not very much. And there's even a little scale there if people do want to weigh and measure that. That's the only thing they would ever recommend you weigh and measuring, because it's considered a restricted food. They have the classification in True North is the unrestricted food, which are the foods that are to the left of the red line. And then they have the restricted foods like the nuts and seeds and avocado. And then they have the never foods, which are the ones that I recommend you never eat either, like oil and animal products and sugars and flours. Now, twice a year, Dr. Alan Goldhammer allows us to have a dessert. And that would be on Christmas Day and New Year's Eve. Now, I was a pastry chef. I always say that I'm a pastry chef in recovery now, but I was an executive pastry chef in a Los Angeles restaurant for 5 years. The restaurant wasn't even vegan, yet all my desserts were, and none of them contained sugar. I used the fruit, the whole fruit, and nothing but the whole fruit, so help me God, primarily dates, but I used other fruits. I did not use any oil or salt, and I very rarely used flour. I think there was one recipe I just couldn't figure out how to do without flour, but for the most part, they were just whole food desserts, unprocessed desserts. So one of the recipes, and you can get this on my website, on my webinar page, is a pecan pie, and this is what it looks like. And this is your normal, I believe, 8-inch springform pan, and this is the pecan pie. And this is made out of just 2 ingredients. It's made out of pecans and dates, 2 very healthful ingredients. It's not roasted or salted. They're whole foods found in nature, dates and pecans. Okay, so what's the problem? All right, now, that pie, we cut into 12 slices for each participant at the extravaganza, and we got a piece this size. Now, at the restaurant, the piece would be double this size. Nobody would pay $7 for a piece this size. So this is the size that everyone got served. Can you guess how many calories and how much fat is in this 1/12 of my recipe pecan pie? 657 calories and over 50 grams of fat. It would take me almost 2 weeks to eat that much fat. Now, you could certainly eat this. It's a whole food. But somebody my weight, I have maintained my weight for almost 5 years now of 117 pounds plus or minus 3 pounds. And on days that I don't exercise, I only get about 1,200 calories. So do I really want more than half my calories coming from this? I could do it, but I'm going to be pretty hungry. Not to mention that the fat you eat is the fat you wear, and I clearly have demonstrated that I can't eat any fat without wearing it. So I could eat this piece of pie for 657 calories and 50 grams of fat, or I could eat what I normally eat for lunch. Let's see if I can hold this up. Sorry about that. This is why we need my Kenny back. For less than the 657 calories. So let me see if I can show you this without it tilting. I have got a Hannah garnet, or these are the garnet yams. No, the Hannah yam. This is 1.5 pounds of Hannah yams. Here's some steamed zucchini, an artichoke, and an apple. And this is less than, let's see if I can make this go like this. Sorry guys, I'm not a camera person. So the point is what do you think is going to fill you up more? All this food or this piece of pie? Now this has virtually no fat, and this has over 50 grams of fat. So I get to eat this. I haven't eaten lunch yet. I'm actually hungry because I didn't want to have to cook it twice. So as soon as we're off the broadcast, I'm going to eat this for lunch, and I get to eat this every single day and be slim. Or I could eat this. What is going to fill me up more? Well, if you said the pounds of sweet potatoes and vegetables and fruit, you'd be right. Now, how do you make the artichokes in the Instant Pot? 4 of them in the 8-quart Instant Pot. Now, this pie that has 657 calories and 50 grams of fat is made from 2.5 ounces of pecans and 2 ounces of dates. can see what a small amount of food this is. And again, these are healthy foods that many people eat, but they're very, very calorically dense. Now, I cut a little piece of pie off that pie, and this piece is 433 calories. I don't know if you can see how small this is, but this is probably, if I were to eat this, maybe 2 bites, maybe 3 bites. And so when you understand caloric density, the foundation of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, you'd understand that you really can eat more and weigh less. Now, if you're somebody that enjoys smaller portions of more calorically dense food, you're certainly entitled to it. But then you are going to have to weigh and measure your food for the rest of your life if you do not wish to be overweight. So the weighing and measuring programs do work, but you have to be willing to do them for the rest of your life. And I encourage you to watch the interview I did with Dr. Doug Lisle calling Weighing and Measuring, Does It Really Work? Where he pretty much says it doesn't, at least not for most people, because the bottom line is the only reason you have to weigh and measure your food is if you're not eating the right food. So in these programs that insist on weighing, measuring, they're always including some type of very calorically dense food, whether it's nuts or oil or animal products. And so of course they would have to weigh and measure. But when you eat just to the left of the red line, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, you can literally take in twice as much food and yet consume half as many calories. So this is all going to probably melt while we do this. So I hope that made sense. And it was interesting because when we served this pie on New Year's Eve, many people were asking for a second slice. And I didn't give it to anybody except one lady who was very, very thin. Dr. Goldhammer said, don't encourage people to overeat. I wasn't encouraging them. I felt like a drug pusher because I'm very conflicted making these desserts for people, knowing what I know. But the next day, after I had run the calories on them and told the people, nobody asked for a piece of pie. All right, so great. Now the next questions or series of questions comes from Angela. And by the way, if you're not signed up for my website at www.eatunprocessed.com, please do so as soon as possible, because next week we are sending out a very special announcement. Right now, only the members of the Ultimate Weight Loss group have been able to register, but as of January 17th, everyone will be able to register for a conference that we are having at the Tuscany Hotel and Resort in Las Vegas, September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of this year in Las Vegas. It is with not only myself and John Pierre, the creators of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, but with Dr. Doug Lisle and Dr. Alan Goldhammer and Dr. Carrie Saunders. So that's an event you may not want to miss if this is something that you're interested in and would love to meet these amazing people. And the reason we chose Vegas, we've done it twice in LA, but no matter where you live in the world, Vegas tends to be the cheapest place for anyone to fly into, and the hotel's giving us amazing rates. So if you want to find out about that, you need to be on my mailing list, and also that's the best way to submit questions. So Angela says, I look forward to every single presentation you do. I can't get enough. You are infectious, hopefully in a good way. Thank you. I'm forever grateful. You're welcome. So she says as her diet becomes as pure as it can be, she's noticing how certain foods affect her. I have a few questions I hope you can help me with. I'll do my best. Number one, I notice that beans really affect me. I do eat them once in a while, but mostly when other starch is not an option. You had mentioned you take a supplement since you have a sensitivity. What was it? If I choose to cut out beans, is it recommended or needed? So again, like once I'm seated, I don't want to run to the other room and just leave the camera showing nothing. But the supplement you're talking about is called Heather's Tummy Fiber, and you can get it on Amazon very cheaply. I believe it's $14, and I am going to be interviewing the creator of that product, Heather, in about a week, but it will take maybe a few more weeks for the video to come out, and that's why you can always find these on YouTube, but if you're subscribed to my mailing list, we email them to you as they come out. And what it is, it's a root called acacia, A-C-A-C-I-A, that's it. So I can't tell you if you need that product or not. Again, you know, if you're having digestive problems, always, if you're having any kind of medical problem, I always recommend that you see a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but I will say that this product has helped me and many other people that have what's known as IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. And it's very affordable, and it's completely natural. It's just acacia. It's a root. So I'm going to just show you this picture of myself. And this was me for about 8.5 months, from November 15th November 20th, 2014 to June 15th, 2015, when I was first diagnosed with IBS and SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And I had seen 14 doctors, including 3 gastroenterologists, even a psychiatrist, just to think this must be in my head, because that is what I looked like for almost a year. And people would actually say to me, when am I due? Because bloating is just horrible if you experience it. And so one of the things I get a lot, this question actually is a later question, but if you don't mind, since it makes sense, I'm going to insert it now. It's from Tamika. She said that when I eat vegetables, I get bloated. That's a lot of people's experience, especially if you're coming from the standard American diet, where people are eating over 92% of their calories from animal products and processed food, and less than 10% from fruits and vegetables. People have lost their ability to chew, and you want to chew really well. As Dr. Michael Clapper says, chew your food into a cream. And so if you're eating just processed food like bagels or Cinnabon or chicken nuggets, you could practically swallow these foods whole. But then when you start eating whole plant food, especially vegetables, which are pretty much all fiber, you really, really, really have to chew really well. You have to eat very slowly and chew well. And you might take some time, your system getting used to this large amount of fiber if you were on virtually a fiberless diet before, because animal products and processed food have 0 fiber. The other thing is vegetables vary in the degree to which they produce gas. And you can Google this, gas producing amounts in vegetables. And so if you're having trouble, instead of having the one that produces the most gas, which are usually things like the cruciferous ones, the cabbage, the Brussels sprouts, you don't have to necessarily eat those right away. You can eat other non-starchy vegetables, which will produce less gas. So for example, I don't really know anybody yet that's really had a problem eating cherry tomatoes. Technically, cherry tomatoes are a fruit, but we classify them as non-starchy vegetables. Or things like jicama, or zucchini, like steamed zucchini. So what I would do is, if you are having gas, often sometimes cooking can help that. Sometimes you get more gas, for instance, if you eat raw kale than steamed kale. But switch the vegetable you're eating and work up slowly. And sometimes people can do that with beans as well. Now, for me, I have not eaten any beans in a year, and I could test it again, but I've been doing so well that I'm actually afraid to, and I may do it again, but the thing is, I travel so much, and once I bloat, I'm going to be sick for 24 hours because there's other symptoms that accompany bloating for me, which are usually other gastric distress and often things like diarrhea. So because I'm always in the public eye, the last thing I want to do is bloat before I have to give a presentation or have to run to the bathroom. So I'm afraid to test legumes again. That said, legumes are very healthy, and if you can eat them, but some of us just can't, and I think it has to do with the speed of fermentation in the gut. We all have different, what we call microbiomes, and I don't believe there's any food that everyone has to eat. I mean, other than water, and we have to eat food, and I know that many of the doctors will say, you absolutely have to eat nuts, you absolutely have to eat beans, but what about those of us that can't? I mean, you would think that I would be dead by now, not having adding fat in my diet in 5 years and not having any legumes in a year. But the thing is you don't need to eat legumes, you need to eat starch. Now, one of the things legumes has that the other starches don't have is something called lysine, and that's a limiting amino acid, but you can get that from eating quinoa. You can take lysine, things like that. I'm not saying you have to supplement, but the thing is of all the starches, which are the potatoes and the tubers and the winter squashes, and then the whole grains and legumes, which increase in caloric density from 4, 5 to 600, the only ones you could live on are the starches of the potatoes, the sweet potatoes. Grains and beans lack vitamin A and C, so you could not live on those. But people have lived on just potatoes. And Andrew Spudfit Taylor just did a whole year on nothing but potatoes and lost 120 pounds. Con Potato Study, people have lived on nothing but potatoes. Chris Voigt of the Washington Potato Commission. So the thing is as long as you're eating enough starch and getting enough calories and getting vitamins and minerals from your fruits and vegetables, you don't have to eat beans and legumes. And I know that a lot of the dietitians and doctors are saying we have to have them every day, but some of us just can't eat them. And what I've done is I've interviewed some gastroenterologists. They'll be coming up in my weekly video broadcast. Recently interviewed Dr. Emran Meyer from UCLA. He wrote a great book on the mind-gut connection. So I don't know if you need Heather's tummy fiber. You can certainly try it. But what you could also do is just try your own elimination diet. Now, on Dr. McDougall's website, he gives instructions on how to do an elimination diet. I did one for the whole 8.5 months that I was suffering and ate nothing but the sweet potatoes and zucchini. I did not lose any weight, proving you can get enough calories from just eating sweet potatoes and zucchini. If I needed to lose weight, I probably would have lost weight doing that. You know, here's the thing. So when I was sick, I went to all different specialties, including several immunologists and naturopaths, and they all did allergy testing. And the interesting thing is that the two immunologists, their results didn't agree, and these tests were done within a certain, very close time frame. And the naturopath who did not the skin testing, but did it through the blood and the stool, those results were completely different. And so I really like what my immunologist, who was my immunologist for most of my life, unfortunately he passed away, Dr. Spector, said. And he always said the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And so don't let anybody tell you what you must do and what you must eat if it doesn't work for you. The plant-based diet in general, and the one that I recommend in particular, it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's a one-size-fits most. I can't talk. And if any food is a personal trigger food for you or a problem for you, don't eat it regardless of who tells you to eat it, So if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. Maybe it'll work for you at another time. The thing is there's about 18,000 different kinds of legumes. And so the question is, well, do they all trigger you to having discomfort, or is it just certain ones? Unfortunately, even my favorite legumes, the ones like sugar snap peas and green beans, I have got the same result as if I were eating, kidney beans or garbanzo beans, which at first I really missed because I love them, but I learned how to make things like my beanless bean burger, and things taste just as good without them. So yeah, at first I missed them, but I sure don't miss the bloating and I don't miss the diarrhea. So that's find out what's at the heart of your sensitivity, do an elimination diet, and then what you do is you slowly add back in these foods and keep a very detailed journal, and that's what I recommend for that. I find when I do a starch, mostly sweet potatoes and veggies, I feel at my best. The cleaner I eat, I notice the littlest things, even if they are clean foods. When I incorporate fruit, it seems to send me into cravings and binging. Have you ever heard of this? I had a banana and an apple. Okay, sorry about that. You can only shoot Facebook Lives through your phone, and I just got a phone call, so hopefully I didn't go away for too long. So yes, I have absolutely heard of fruit triggering people. And by the way, I'm not telling you not to eat fruit. I eat fruit. Fruit is very healthy, but some days I don't eat any sweet fruits, and some days I eat only one piece of fruit. Like yesterday, I just had an apple, and there were days at True North these last 12 days that I didn't eat any sweet fruit. Now, realize that 6 non-starchy vegetables, zucchini, tomato, cucumbers, bell peppers, okra, and eggplant. These are botanically fruits, and I eat these every day in large amounts. So I am eating fruit every day. I'm just not always eating sweet fruits like bananas and grapes and pineapple and papayas. Not that I don't eat these, but I don't eat these every day. And I have found, I wouldn't say that they trigger me, but I found that these fruits are often too sweet for me now. That I don't care for them anymore. I care much more for savory, even though I was a sugar addict for 43 years and used to have Coke Slurpees for breakfast and Dr. Peppers for lunch. I prefer savory foods now, and that can actually happen. So I've absolutely heard of it happening. And there are people that cannot eat bananas anymore. That either I've met them at True North or my program. And early on in my recovery from food addiction, when I really didn't understand that I really was a food addict and what it was, I remember meeting people at True North like 5 years ago that say, "Oh, I can't eat that recipe. You put 3 dates in the sauce," or "I can't eat bananas." And I'm like, "Oh, you're crazy. Everybody can eat these." Well, no, they weren't crazy. That's what I was thinking because I was uninformed back then. But the thing is bananas are a high sugar and low water fruit, and they are a trigger food for many people. And that's why in some of the food addiction treatment programs, they're not even allowed as our dates or dried fruit. And that's why I don't want to say to everybody, you can't have this, you can't have this, because food addiction is on a continuum, with some people being more vulnerable, other people being less vulnerable, and that vulnerability can change depending on what's going on in your life, emotionally and things like that. So I don't do dessert recipes anymore with dates on purpose. And in the Ultimate Weight Loss Recipe Guide, there's 3 recipes that have a few dates in them that can be omitted. So absolutely, I've heard that happen. I haven't heard it happen so much with apples. Apples tend to be one of the lower glycemic fruits like berries, which are the fruits I like people to focus on, especially if they're diabetic. But I totally believe that it's happening for you. And maybe you could eat the fruit as part of a meal. So for example, I don't ever eat fruit on its own or by itself. What I do is I combine it. So for example, one of the things I love to do is if I'm having steamed kale, I can eat it plain now. Plain food tastes good to me because the truth is the longer you stay on a health promoting diet free of chemicals like sugar, oil, flour, and salt, the more delicious whole natural foods taste. That I don't even season my food much anymore. These 12 days of True North, I didn't even use salad dressing. It didn't need it. So what I like to do though is combine fruit with something else. So if I'm having maybe some steamed kale, maybe I'll put a little pineapple in. I love to do that kind of combination, but I can't eat fruit on its own, and it's just way too sweet for me too as well. So yes, I've heard that happening, and good for you for neuroadapting. Welcome to neuroadaptation, because it's great, because once you neuroadapt, just the simplest foods taste amazing. If I eat too many sweet potatoes, will I turn orange like carrots? Well, I don't know. I know that there's something called hypervitaminosis A. It's from all the carotenoids in carrots, and I've seen people that eat a lot of carrots, their palms actually get orange, the bottoms of their feet, sometimes their eyelids. I tend to eat the purple carrots more because I like them better. I like the taste. My understanding is that all carrots used to be purple until in the 17th century when the Dutch hybridized them, but purple's my favorite color, and I think the purple organic heirloom carrots taste better. But I've completely heard that happening with carrots. I have not yet heard that happening with sweet potatoes. The thing is I don't generally eat sweet potatoes, the orange ones. I don't dislike the orange garnet ones, but they tend to be a little mushy for me, so I tend to eat the Hana, the Japanese sweet potato, or the Hawaiian sweet potato. So let's see if I can see any more questions here. It's really hard for me to go through them in real time, so I'll have to go back. And what I'll do, guys, is I will take them and just ask them next week, if you don't mind. I don't want to keep you online too long. So you're at your wit's end. Well, if you're at your wit's end, then it's time to join the Ultimate Weight Loss Program. So we have time for one more question, and this came from Clarice. And one of the things she said is that she noticed that people, she's in Ultimate Weight Loss. That's her. She uses a different name online, so I know. I'm sorry I said your name, but oops. Well, maybe that wasn't her name after all. But anyway, she's in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, and she said she notices that some people are doing really well and they're on fire, and then other people are really struggling. And she said, have I determined like what makes somebody successful and why some people are struggling? And I haven't determined it 100%. I do have a lecture called The 7 C's to Success, which is part of the program, which every time I do it, it gets more comprehensive and I think better. I just gave it a True North. But what I've noticed is that one of the things that the people that are doing really well on the program, and you might say for other programs as well, have in common is that they have a very strong level of commitment to doing it. And they've committed to do it even when it's hard and for as long as it takes. My mom always used to say, it's easy to do what's easy. And people that are committed will do whatever it takes. People that are merely interested will just do what's easy. So I've noticed that the people that, and they don't always start out like that. Look at BJ. Sometimes they waver and sometimes they're not as committed. But once they really commit and don't quit, it's like they're on fire. So that's one of the things I've noticed about the people that are very successful. And the other thing I noticed is that they are willing to control their environment. And we've talked about this in previous broadcasts, but it's the start of the new year. So if you are trying to follow any version of the health promoting diet, the time to clean out your pantry and your refrigerator and freezer and cupboards was January 31st, because as I've been saying since day one, if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. Let's all say it together. If it's in my house, it's in my mouth. As Heather, who's lost over 200 pounds, says, if it's in my face, if it's in my place, it's in my face. If it's in your house, it's in your mouth. It's not a question of if you will eat it and relapse, only when. And so what I've noticed about the people that are successful is that they have cleaned up their environment. They don't keep any non-compliant foods in their house. They don't make exceptions on buying the food, making it for other people. So this is a really good question, and I can address this in further broadcasts as well, because it's something certainly worth thinking about. So I guess that's all for today. Let's see. I really wish I could, I guess I could scroll back and see if there's questions, but it's very, very small writing. So we'll just end it here today. And I thank you so much for watching another episode of Weight Loss Wednesday. If you have a question, please go to www.eatunprocessed.com. And my wish for you in 2017 is that this is your year in finally gaining both the health and the body that you so richly deserve. Thank you so much for watching.